Hello everybody, I'm Chip and welcome to my review of the first season of the Netflix original series Arcane. So as the first animated series from Riot Games, which has always primarily been a video game company with one of the most popular games in the world, League of Legends, I wasn't sure exactly what to expect from the series going into it. On one hand, they have never released an entire show before, and based on how many other low-quality video game movies that have came out, this could have easily been a low-quality cash grab, and they could just make some money and move on with it, and I wouldn't be very surprised. On the other hand, all of the Riot Games properties outside of League of Legends itself have always been phenomenal. They've had great music releases such as KDA and Pentakill. They have awesome animated shorts such as for their esports tournaments and other trailers. And there's also this huge interconnected lore for their entire universe of champions and characters. Considering that, it's actually not surprising that Riot completely knocked it out of the park with this and made an amazing show. Before I get on with the review, I'd just like to mention that I make other content like this all the time where I review videos or I do gaming content. So if you're interested in anything like that, go hit the like or the subscribe down below to let me know you're interested, and let's carry on. So what is the show about? Well, without spoiling anything, I'll give a brief overview of what you can expect and then also go into what I thought of the show, what they did good, what they did bad, and then at the end I'll tell you my verdict. Was it worth watching? Should you watch the show? Arcane is set between the steampunk-esque cities of Piltover and Zaun, where Piltover is the wealthy city of progress and innovation, and Zaun is the dirty slums that are literally below Piltover. It's overrun with poverty and drug use and all these bad things. So the show starts off by following Vi and Powder, with these young kids, and they're trying to scrounge their way through life in Zaun without parents to guide them. They end up turning to thievery to survive and get caught when one of their jobs goes wrong. They make a desperate escape attempt, and even though they get out, tensions start to build and then spiral out of control between the two cities, and things change for better or worse. Everything is different forever. So this may sound like a fairly stereotypical plot, like two sisters and then the world changes forever. Oh my god. I wrote this myself, so not saying this is as good as their writing is, but the writing in the show is phenomenal. Everything was super well executed. There's so much depth in the world. All the characters feel unique and realistic, and having this stark contrast between these two areas of Piltover and Zaun creates some great visuals and some great imagery that with this really complex political landscape. And the show explores all of this and then shows it through different characters' perspectives, so you get a pretty broad perspective of the whole world that they're living in. One worry that some people had, and myself included, was whether or not the writers could make all of the pre-established characters from League of Legends into compelling characters that fit into a cohesive world on screen, since multiple of the characters from the game are in the show, such as Vi, Jinx, Jace, and others. In the game, each of these characters only has their visuals, maybe their abilities, some sound effects, and a few lines of dialogue to convey their whole personality and all of their story, which is a pretty limited perspective. To expand on this, each character is given a background story to give them some more depth, and this is released with every character in the game. So they'll have like a story about where they came from, and then maybe a separate story about like what they're doing now. And then Arcane, took the basics of all the characters but expanded on all of them and connected them all in a way that wasn't really done before. So this is an entirely new story that hasn't existed, but the characters exist and they keep their general themes and ideas and personalities. Even though I didn't know every character's background from the existing lore, I had a pretty good idea of the personality, and I think the writers did a great job of being faithful to the characters themselves, and also in the transition from game to show they actually improved some of the characters as well. Even almost all the new characters felt as if they fit into the world and had a solid purpose and reasonable motivations for being there and for what they were doing. Like the main villains as well were not completely black and white, and there was some morally gray areas that played into all of the characters in the show, so you can kind of relate to them even if what they're doing is clearly maybe wrong by general morals in our world. On top of all of this, the outstanding animation, the great voice acting, and the wonderful music choice really made everything come to life. But even a few scenes that in hindsight were maybe somewhat predictable, I was still completely absorbed in due to how well everything had been set up leading to these climaxes. Like, I kind of know what's going to happen, but it's still exciting. Like, they did this so well how it was written and animated, that I'm just like watching, I'm like, oh my god, what's going to happen? I know what's going to happen, but what's going to happen? I want to see it. I need to know. Another thing with the animation was just such insane quality. All of the characters' movements felt like they had weight and meaning, and each character was portrayed really well with how they held themselves and how they acted. Some of the scenes in this animated show were sometimes better acted and more believable than live action cinematography, which is insane. And the fight scenes as well, because obviously there's fight scenes, it's like an anime. They were so good. There's a few of these throughout the show, and all of them just looked spectacular. I don't know what to say. I don't want to give away spoilers for exactly what's happening, but when you get to these fight scenes, they're just so awesome to look at. As for the audio, music choice helped so much with setting the scene and drawing the audience into what's happening. Everything felt more intense and dramatic, maybe real, exciting, whatever, just because the music was amplifying everything in a good way. Definitely can think of some times when the music was great. Like there's one scene where one of the main characters is walking into a pub in Zon. It's just kind of grungy punk rock music, I think, if I remember. And it fits great with the aesthetic of the neon lights and the shady gambling in the corners. You see like the camera panning around to this rundown bar, and you get this whole undercity vibe, and the music just plays into that and amplifies what's going on. So now I spent all this time praising the show. Surely something had to be poorly executed or maybe not make sense, because not everything can be just perfect, right? Well, actually, the show is really good. Honestly, I don't have much negative to say about it. To be fair, I watched it in November when it was released, so it's been a little bit of time now that I'm writing this review, so maybe I've missed a few points that I kind of just forgot about. I don't remember having anything negative to say at the time of the show either. The only kind of negatives I can come up with would be like what I mentioned before, where I kind of knew where some of the characters would end up based on like previous knowledge about the game, where just kind of knowing how the characters have interacted before. It's like a little bit of kind of expected what's happening, but it still didn't throw off my experience at all. Like, I was still a great show, and it was exciting to see these characters in more depth, more fleshed out, and more realistic setting. And in the same vein, I'm not sure if, since I know these characters so well and I've played with them for a long time, then like maybe someone new coming in doesn't know everything about these characters, so maybe they're not quite as invested in it. But at the same time, I could see them being even more invested because they have actually no idea what's going to happen. So maybe there's like some plot twists, like they'd be even more shocked at what's happening. I think the show was set up really well that anyone new coming in could watch this and have no issues at all and just actually enjoy the show. You don't need any background knowledge about the game to watch this show. And one more thing would be maybe the Easter eggs that I was looking for the whole time, because obviously I knew it was going to be a League of Legends anime. I kind of know all of the characters and the general lore in the world, so I'm like looking like, is this a character, is this a character? And at the same time, they had mentioned that there's going to be some characters from Arcane in League of Legends as new champions. So I was looking for Easter eggs and kind of speculating like, could this be the new champion? Could this be a new champion? Who is that? Turns out my theories were kind of on the right path, but very wrong, but that's not important. I think this actually improved my experience, but it is definitely something I was thinking about constantly. Like, instead of just being 100% in the show, I was maybe thinking about the game as it relates to the show. Like, is this character gonna show up, or is this person that person, or whatever? But generally, not much negative to say. I mean, it was an awesome story. It was really great. I think my verdict is you should definitely watch Arcane. It's a fantastic show, and it's one of my all-time favorites. I was tempted to rewatch it after I finished it, just because I enjoyed it so much. I've never done that before. I mean, maybe some of you guys have been like, rewatching shows, you have something you really like. For me, maybe rewatching a movie is different, but for like a TV show or a whole series, it's like long, and I'd rather watch something new and get a new experience. But I was so tempted to just watch this again and like spread the word and get people to talk about this. I want people to watch this show. It was really good. So if you're interested at all in anything I've talked about, maybe the visuals or the characters or the story, just go watch it. I promise you'll like it. It's just good. And also, a message to Riot. If you're watching this video, please just take your time with the next season. Don't rush it. I want this to be really good, and I'll wait. I don't care. I want this to be another 10 out of 10, please. So do you agree with what I said though? Let me know in the comments if you have already watched the show and if you agree with my analysis. Like, was it great? Was it bad? Do you also recommend it to anyone else watching this video? And like I mentioned before, if you want to see more review videos from movies, shows, and maybe even games, go ahead and subscribe and hit that like button so you know you enjoyed this. I also upload some gaming videos such as Minecraft and Genshin Impact, so stay tuned for more of that as well. That'll do it for me though. See you guys next time. Goodbye. So now, anyone watching this video who has watched Arcane and is wondering, should I play League of Legends? My recommendation to you is no, don't. If you haven't played League yet and you're watching Arcane and you're thinking about getting into League, just don't do it. You'll be much happier. I promise you, you'll be much happier not playing League. Now, I'll give it some credit. It's really fun when you play with your friends. And once you get into the game and learn all of the nuances and things about it, it can be super rewarding. But it's pretty difficult to get into as a new player since there's so much going on. You have to really dedicate yourself to learning everything. And then there's so many like Smurfs in these low-level games that you just kind of can't learn. Plus, since the game kind of just rewards competitive players and nothing for casual players. The game has become super toxic and everyone's just competitive and win, and there's nothing else happening. And then, in my opinion, some of Riot's balance changes have been pretty sus recently. So they are adding a new achievement system with some badges, and maybe this would help boost casual players, but it feels like it's too little too late. But yeah, that's enough about this. I'm not making a League of Legends review right now. This is an Arcane review. Now, a little bit of spoilers here. I'm just going to talk about Echo because this show is great and I don't have like a huge rant to put at the end, so I'm going to just talk about what was great again because Echo was great. In the game, Echo is one of my favorite champions. Like, he's actually one of my highest masteries. If I'm not playing support, then I'm playing Set or Echo or Nico, maybe Yorick. I just love the aesthetic and everything they had with him in the show. And like, so I remember watching the trailer and being like, oh my god, this character is so cool. This has to be a new champion. Like, I will actually come back to League of Legends to play as this champion. And it turns out it was Echo. And I was like, okay, actually that makes sense. And actually, I'm even more excited about Echo now because he actually looks so sick. He had the whole owl mask and he had like skater vibe, his little hoverboard, like flicking around his stopwatch. Like, in hindsight, it makes sense. But before seeing that, I had no clue who it was. And I was like, I actually just love this character. They look so cool. And I'm excited that they're putting out a Firelight Echo, but I'm also very upset that it was delayed and it's the only paid skin. Why do all the other characters get a free skin, but Echo you have to pay for it? So that pisses me off. I don't like that. It should just be free like the other ones. You literally gave Vi and Jace and Caitlyn and Jinx a free skin that matches Arcane as a redesign. Give Echo the same thing. What do you mean? And also, don't leave Victor out. I guess right now he doesn't have anything to augment himself. So maybe Victor will get a skin in the next season, so because he'll be like playing with his hex core more, and maybe he kind of uses all of his stuff. I just hope season 2 is as good as season 1 was, because season 1 was actually 10 out of 10. Like, it's a good show, and I don't have anything bad to say about it. The worst thing I have to say is that there's not more of it. I want more. To expand on this and give each character some depth, not death, depth, okay. And many of them were even improved from the transition of the show into the game. Wait, I said that backwards. That has to be a new champion, right? It looks so cool. They can't make a They can't make a I can't talk. Okay, goodbye.